Hey, it's Lewis from Microsoft Build, and I'm here with the dev drive team, Adam and Bridget. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Good.
great.
Good. So first, I just want to ask, because dev drive, it's new-ish, in the whole Microsoft developer ecosystem. So just for those who don't know, what is dev drive?
Dev Drive is a new form of storage volumes that was released last year. So it uses the REFS file system to enhance file operations, and it also has new behavior from Microsoft Defender, so it scans asynchronously instead of taking up your file space.
Nice.
Yeah, and its real goal was to give developers more control over their security versus performance profile for their developer workloads. And because of that, because we're focusing on developer workloads, DevDrive were able to make some changes to the file system behavior to improve performance in those scenarios, as well as provide changes to Defender behavior as well. And so that gives you kind of the performance, security with Defender and async scanning. And the third thing was control over your filter drivers. Are you familiar with filter drivers in the file system on Windows?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Filter drivers are kind of the low-level thing that allows Windows file system to be extensible. So things like OneDrive, when you go hydrate a file from your OneDrive, it goes, you ask for the file, it downloads it, and then makes it available to the file system. Well, with DevDrive, you can, as a developer or IT admin, you can control the filter drivers that are attached to DevDrive. And every one of those filter drivers adds a little bit of overhead, so giving you more power and control.
Oh, that's awesome. So just, in layman terms, for those who, might be new to developing on Windows or whatever it might be, why would you use a dev drive over like a standard, NTFS-based system?
I'd say because a lot of people, in order to improve their performance, will sometimes use folder exclusions instead. And so using a dev drive is a way to get a lot of that speed, but also still have your security profile working for you.
Yeah, I went to a talk yesterday where we saw a demo of dev drive working. I think it was copying over the cache for your dependencies of like a Rust project, and it was 15 times faster. So the benefits are almost immediate. So I guess just a quick question here too is how does it work exactly? How does it kind of do all of this so fast?
So DevDrive really gives you as the developer an isolated space to put your projects, your source, your repos, being able to do builds. Depending on your security posture, you can also move additional tools there, whether it's the .NET SDK or Visual Studio itself. And essentially, the more source and tools you can put on the dev drive, the better your performance profile is going to be on that machine, because of the performance benefits of REFS itself and because of Defender async scanning. Right now, Bridget referred to folder exclusions. A lot of times developers manage folder exclusions and they get it on their source folder, but they forget about the package caches. They may or may not want to do their temp directory. Like if you're doing a lot of Python development, Python hammers the temp drive. And so Defender kind of tends to investigate all that, because that's kind of a challenging area. And so you can move a lot of those locations onto a dev drive. And essentially, if we're talking to developers, that's great. If you're talking to IT admins, if they already allow folder exclusions, DevDrive actually gives you async scanning, which is more security than folder exclusions, because folder exclusions does no scanning.
Yeah.
And so that's one way to pitch it to your IT admins.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, Adam, you're almost approaching 31 years at Microsoft. You started off as a test manager and with Visual Studio. So, for someone who's worked on creating tools for developer productivity for a while, I'd love to hear your philosophy behind how you, make tools that developers want to use.
Well, thank you for calling that out. Yes, I'm long into...
It's impressive. It's impressive.
I've always been passionate about developer tools and productivity. I started my career early in Microsoft, actually in product support, helping developers answer questions. Back then it was over the phone, so you can imagine trying to debug some corporate's programming issues, whether it was C++ back then or BASIC. It was even before Visual Basic. And so, but I've really been passionate about trying to support developers and the tools they've been in. So my career throughout developer tools space, and now more recently on the Windows platform space, trying to make all developers productive as possible on Windows. And so we try to listen to their feedback of what are their pain points, and work to make Windows, make improvements in Windows. And that was really the start of DevDrive and the file system improvements.
Yeah, just embracing open source as a way to kind of get community feedback, which, Bridget, I saw on December 21st, you posted a GitHub issue looking for feedback. I'll send it to the team over here. Looking for feedback within DevHome for DevDrive Insights features. So, here you're using open source as a way to get community feedback behind this integration for, DevDrive in some other Microsoft products. So I was just going to ask, you've previous positions, you manage tier 3 support tickets, you're used to talking to people and fixing their problems. So what are some of the benefits and difficulties of open source as a way to gather this feedback?
I'd say since I've started at Microsoft, I've been on open source projects, which has been really cool. Like I said, at my previous job, I was working a lot with customers that I was much more on a first-name basis with.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot of getting right to the point with people and managing a higher volume of input. But the whole team is really focused on getting feedback so that the changes that we do are able to make are really beneficial to people and actually what they want. So it just is a little bit more motivation to be making as good of changes as possible and having a really good team culture.
Yeah, and do you find that that transition between the two is a large one? Definitely have different qualities between the two of them, but how was that was it a tough transition to do?
Not as much. I did a lot of product management before, and it was a very small company, so you had to wear many hats kind of thing, and product management is a lot like that. You have to be able to try and talk about as many different things as possible so that you're thinking about all of the options and sort of anybody that you talk to, trying to understand where they're coming from.
And so when it comes to with the dev tools that Microsoft has been working, what we've noticed is that they're trying to connect with all of the different Windows features that developers are already working with, excuse me, with Azure, with Visual Studio, and obviously, as we just talked about with DevHome. I was just wondering, with DevDrive, how are you incorporating that into the existing Microsoft developer ecosystem?
We've both been doing a lot of work with partner teams like Visual Studio and VS Code. So we're trying to, not just for DevDrive, but other features as well. You may have seen the File Explorer session the other day with source control in it now.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So really trying to give people information wherever they are in Windows, including for DevDrive too.
Yeah.
I'd add to that, we do partner quite a bit with the Visual Studio teams as well, and over the past 6 months or so, we've ran a few experiments. Right now in Visual Studio, the first time you install it, if it detects a dev drive is available, it will default its project location to the dev drive. Sometimes though, if you create a dev drive afterwards, we've ran some experiments in Visual Studio where it will detect the dev drive and it pops up a little notification inside Visual Studio saying learn more, and then takes you to either the settings app or the documentation so you can learn more about dev drive and moving your package caches there.
Nice.
I also do want to add regarding open source and the issue that you called out a little while ago. With DevHome, we introduced a feature called DevDrive Insights that was announced at the session yesterday.
Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so that was Bridget's feature, and we've kind of got the early stages of it up and running, where it detects your dev drive and provides information about it, and also helps you start moving package caches. That's where we'd love community feedback on additional features of what you want to learn about your dev drive and how to improve its performance. But the root of that whole issue was really people would set up a dev drive, but then they weren't sure that they had everything configured correctly. And so this was really the idea to provide a place that you have confidence that you've set up your dev drive correctly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I have one last question here for developers before I ask one last one about the dev drive here. So, Adam, after doing some research, I found this conversation that you had on LinkedIn about 5 years ago. I'll send it to you guys here in a second. But basically, someone was talking about a Microsoft Surface thing, and you said here, just try disabling USB select. So you went in the comments there to help troubleshoot an issue. And Bridget, we already talked about how you have been using your previous position, and as well as what you're doing now in open source, helping people get that. So I was just curious, because a lot of developers who are getting into the developer space, it's often extremely important for them to troubleshoot some issues. So I just have a question here for people who are experienced with it. How do you troubleshoot people's, or specifically developers' issues to help them? What's some advice you guys could give?
From my perspective, definitely asking a lot of questions to make sure that you understand what they're trying to do and exactly what they're running into and what they've already tried. But really figuring out the end goal. Sometimes when you've been troubleshooting for a while, you forget what your end goal was in the first place. So really getting back to that.
Try turning it on and off again. Yeah.
Reset the infamous power button on the printer or the computer. But no, I think to build on what Bridget was saying, it is trying to make sure you understand what problem they are having, what problem they're trying to solve, and what they've already attempted to do to solve the solution. Oftentimes, it's tough to debug in the Twitter sphere or the comment section of YouTube or LinkedIn. But the more information you can kind of get about their specific scenarios, the details of what they're trying to solve, and then maybe they're on the right track, or you can steer them in a new direction.
Nice. So for those who are interested in DevDrive, how can they get started, and what types of developers can get started?
Most types of developers, it's a good fit for people and going to the settings app is where most people will end up creating it. There's options for doing either a hard partition or a VHD. Both of those you see a lot of the performance benefits, and cloning your source code or copying it over, and let us know how it goes on social media.
Awesome. Yeah, and make sure to give feedback if you give it a try. Yeah. So congratulations to you both. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, and check out DevDrive.